Here's what I've learned after 35 years in combat sports. A few weeks ago I turned 46. Yes, I know I'm old. And that got me thinking about how long I have been in combat sports and what I've learned along the way. I want to share this with you so you hopefully don't make the same mistakes that I have. My father was a judoka, my mother was a champion of ex-Yugoslavia, my uncle is a multiple masters European and world champion, and my cousins and other uncles were judokas as well. So it was natural that I follow in the same path. I started judo when I was 11 in 1990. Stopped training judo in 2005 when I took up MMA, which I've been involved with until the present day. I've also competed in grappling, BJJ and freestyle wrestling, which amounts to 35 years in combat sports. I've got a lot to share with you today, and you can check the time codes below if you want to skip to the section that interests you the most. What to do when injured? Like it or not, injuries are a part of sports, and here's what to do when you get hurt. Always train what you can. Do not lie on your couch and wallow in self-pity. When I injured my right arm, I trained without it and actually improved in many aspects. I go into more depth about this subject in this video. Be present in training even if you cannot train. You learn by watching your teammates train, and you can help them by giving them feedback and timing the rounds. By doing that, you will be mentally present, which will help you stay in the training mindset. Be very persistent and professional in your rehab. If you undergo a surgery, and I've had plenty, know that it is only 50% of recovery. Other 50% is good rehab. Find a good physiotherapist and get to work. Do not rush to get back to training. It is better that your rehab lasts longer and for you to know for sure you've strengthened and healed your injury properly than to rush it and get re-injured. Then your return will last even longer if you return at all. Many will not endure re-injuring psychologically and will quit. After my ACL surgery in 2001, I spent 2 hours a day in rehab doing physiotherapy and then went to the gym and did another 3 hours of weight training. When I returned to the mats, I needed some time to get my judo skills back, but I was strong as an ox, which helped not getting re-injured. Make sure you don't start sparring immediately and gradually expose yourself to fighting training. When I returned to judo training from my ACL injury, at first I only did the warm-up and light technical training. Then I proceeded to test my knee in harder conditions, step by step. Then I introduced randori, which is judo sparring, first with weaker opponents and then with harder ones after a while. I didn't just jump in and spar on the first day. The best way to learn. You don't just learn by watching your coach demonstrate techniques. While this is a big part of learning, if that's all you do, then you're seriously stifling your growth. Here's what else you can do. Watch your coach or someone more advanced than you spar. Think about what they're doing and why they're doing it. I used to watch my coach August Valens spar and some of my more advanced training partners too, and it meant a lot. Some of my training partners couldn't explain what they were doing when I asked them, but when I got to watch them, I was able to understand. Same goes for watching fights. Don't just watch them as a fan, watch them as a student of combat sports. Ask yourself, why is a fighter A doing that particular thing, or why is he using this or that tactics against fighter B? Would you do the same if you were him, or something different? How would you fight both fighter A and B? Can you implement some of their techniques tomorrow in training and maybe start practicing them? Learn from instructionals and books. Yes, books. There has never been a better time to learn combat sports given the number of instructionals online, both free and paid. I used to learn from books. I remember learning many judo techniques like kosotogari from judo books written by world and Olympic champions. But don't overdo it with instructionals. That's coming from a guy who sells them. Many people just buy them and never go through them. If you have a good coach and system already, instructionals here and there might be used to supplement an already sound fighting system. Don't get lost in hours of footage. If you have an area where you're lacking, learn it from the instructional and practice it. Drill, and drill some more. They say drillers are killers, and I cannot agree more. Make sure you drill the basics until you're blue in the face. Fancy stuff can and does work, but only if you have your basics down. Drilling will make you react without thinking because you have created the neural pathways to do so. Your muscles will cooperate properly and your body will execute the moves fast and without a second thought. I recommend coming 45 minutes before your practice and lightly drill the things you need the most. If you train 3 times a week, that will be 2 hours and 15 minutes of extra drilling time per week. Now calculate how many hours that will be in a year. This is what I used to do with my guys who competed. I heard Lloyd Irvin speak about doing this with his fighters and I implemented it immediately. Situational sparrings are a must. You are not going to be able to master different situations or positions unless you deliberately place yourself in them. If you just do general sparring, you will not be in any position long enough to master the attack or defense. Therefore, you must place yourself in them to get enough practice in, both for attack and defense. Take for example side control. You and your partner should do situational sparring in this position, with and without punches. You can start on bottom for the first 5 minutes and practice your escapes while he attacks and then change roles. Do several rounds of these, preferably with different partners. Same goes for any position and situation. Best recovery methods. I have an entire video on recovery and you can watch it here or down below in the description. Is a clean diet necessary for success? I recently heard John Danaher say that diet doesn't matter for combat sports because he's seen Olympic judokas, world caliber wrestlers and top BJJ and MMA guys eat junk and still destroy their competition. While that might be true, it is also true that those same people would perform even better if they had cleaner diets, at least physically. What do I mean by that? Human being is not just his physical body, but also, for the lack of a better word, soul. I've seen my judo teammates get drunk every day and still win the nationals. This is not unheard of even in international competitions. Would they perform better if they had cleaner diets and abstain from alcohol? Not necessarily. I would always suggest that competitors adhere to a clean diet, although it doesn't have to be as strict as a bodybuilder's diet. Most people would find that too tedious and it would negatively impact their psyche, even though it might improve their performance. On top of that, they are already sacrificing a lot just by training regularly at least twice a day. So they need some soul food to alleviate the tension, which is not only junk food but often alcohol. That relaxes them and I believe makes them perform better, at least mentally. Don't get me wrong, this is not me recommending that you start drinking and eating junk. That will negatively impact your recovery. The science is clear on that. I'm just explaining how it works with some people. John Jones used to go out and get drunk the night before every fight. And to reiterate, you should clean up your diet and avoid alcohol. That way you'll get the best possible results. At one point I had a super clean diet, which really made the difference in performance, but since it was based on calorie counting, I couldn't stick to it for too long as it was too tedious. Most people can't do it for longer periods of time. I now teach people how to lose weight by adhering to a few very easy to follow principles without calorie counting, but the results are comparable. If you're interested in it, check it out up in the cards or down below in the description. How to build mental toughness with sweat, skill and steel. A physically prepared fighter is a mentally prepared fighter. That's what they told us when I trained judo, and that is absolutely correct. But with the caveat that you've not just done physical training but also mostly sport-specific stuff. You want to have a very high level of physical fitness, which will result in mental toughness because you've had to overcome the hardship of God knows how many lifted tons of weights and thousands of kilometers ran over the course of years. But you must be careful not to turn into a weightlifter or a bodybuilder or a track and field athlete. Your sport must come first. Everything else is supplementary. When I trained judo, I've had a bodybuilding phase, a weightlifting phase, and a phase where I empathize with track and field athletes at the Olympics more than I did with judokas. In other words, I strayed away from judo and concentrated more on supplementary stuff than on sport-specific drills. That changed when I switched to MMA. While I still did physical training, drilling and sparring made the bulk of my training and it paid off. Drilling will give you the biggest bang for the buck, and can take you much further than if you drill a little bit and do a lot of strength and conditioning. And that will also give you mental toughness. The knowledge that you've been in all sorts of situations, that you've drilled them relentlessly, and that you have at least one solution in each one of them. I've talked about this in this video up here or in the description, and it's called having a system. There I mentioned that drillers are killers and that you should aim to have a complete system of fighting where you have at least one solution for every situation. Check it out if you want to learn more. Ultimately, mental toughness is achieved by gradually overcoming obstacles in training, whether physical or sport specific, making yourself do things that you don't want to do, like going for a run when it's raining, and winning sparring sessions and fights. Also by losing sparring sessions and fights, learning the lessons and coming back stronger. You need to show up day after day and do your best. For years. There is no shortcut. But there are some things that you can do to help yourself, and I've written a book on mental toughness, which you can find up in the cards or below in the description. Be more than a fighter. A big question often comes up for dedicated martial artists, and really anyone pursuing mastery in something. Should you pour all your energy into your craft on the mat? Or is it actually better to cultivate a broader range of skills and interests alongside your training? While dedication is crucial, there are many reasons I think people should aim for a well-rounded life, not only in sports. Think about it. Pouring yourself into training builds incredible discipline, focus, and physical skills. That's essential. But focusing exclusively on the physical aspect of your martial arts journey can mean missing out on developing other vital parts of yourself, your intellect, creativity, and other practical skills. These aren't just nice to haves. They contribute to a richer life and provide crucial resilience. What happens if a serious injury takes you away from training for months, or even permanently? Having other interests, knowledge, and income streams makes navigating these challenges much easier. Achieving balance means consciously making space for growth outside the gym, beyond just working a job to fund your training. Consider exploring things like higher education, practical online courses, learning a trade, engaging with books and ideas, starting a small project you're passionate about, or even starting a business. These activities don't detract from your training, they enrich you as a person. It's natural, particularly when deeply immersed in martial arts culture, to strongly identify with the warrior path. It's a noble pursuit if done correctly, emphasizing toughness and discipline, but it's important to remember that being a warrior is just one aspect of human potential. We are capable of so much more: creativity, intellectual pursuits, building things, kindness, compassion, and solving complex problems. Cultivating a diverse set of skills and interests makes you more adaptable, more resilient, and frankly, a more interesting and capable individual. The discipline and problem-solving skills honed on the mat are transferable to countless other fields. Perhaps the most compelling reason for this balance is the unpredictable nature of any sport. Your time competing or training at a high intensity might be cut short unexpectedly by injury. If your sport is the only thing defining you, the only pillar supporting your sense of self-worth and future, losing that can be devastating. So my advice is to build a broader foundation. Develop your mind, learn new skills, pursue other passions. Your identity shouldn't be tied to success or failure in sport. You are more than just a fighter, more than just a martial artist. Embrace the full spectrum of who you can be. There is a great quote by Robert A. Heinlein. A human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. While very few of us will be capable of all this, or to be a Renaissance man, we can and should pursue other interests other than our sport. Girlfriend or wife advice. It is very important to find a supportive girlfriend or wife who doesn't stop you from achieving your goals. She might not like that you're fighting because it's dangerous and she wants the best from you. But she also needs to understand that this is important to you, even though women cannot possibly understand why, because they don't have the same motivation as men do. Her understanding that this is important for you will suffice. If you end up with the wrong one, everything will be harder for you. I suggest you find a grounded woman with conservative values that will make a good wife and mother. Choose wisely. Find the right environment and ditch the bad one ASAP. Having the right environment to train at is key. And I'm not just talking about being a part of the best MMA team you can find. While that is important and you should strive to find the most knowledgeable coach and the best team, there are other considerations too. Is the atmosphere in the club toxic? Are they knocking each other out in sparring or really going hard with strikes? If so, find another place. You should mitigate the risk of injury in training, not increase it. If you're an enthusiast, does the coach only care about competitors and only devotes his time and energy to them? If so, walk away. You want a club that has an expert coach, a healthy atmosphere, and good people so you can improve and grow safely. Check this video out here where I explain how to find a good coach in your area. How to prevent injury. I already talked about how important strength and conditioning is to mental toughness. It is also important for injury prevention. The stronger, more flexible and fitter you are, the less likely you are going to get injured. Most people hate stretching, but that's also a part of the equation. Not just strength training. I stretched after every training for about 15 minutes, but on Saturdays I stretch for an hour after I finish sparring. You should find a way to include stretching in your regimen. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine, but you should definitely stretch. If you're an athlete, you need to have a good strength and conditioning program which takes into account your fighting training and does not exhaust you so there is nothing left for fighting. A program that will make you stronger, fitter, and protect you against injury. It is highly advisable that you do some prehab exercises like the rotator cuff rubber band exercises. Also, sparring with people a lot heavier than you who have a hard time controlling themselves is dangerous. All fighting principles are directly transferable to life. Looking at combat sports just as a tool to kick someone's ass is shallow. Yes, you could use your skills for that purpose, but there is so much more to martial arts. For example, fighting principles are directly transferable to life. I might do a complete video on that subject in the future. Here's an example. When it's tough, don't panic, relax. Let's say you're stuck in bottom side control with your opponent crushing your jaw with his shoulder. Don't panic. Relax and deal with the shoulder pressure first and then proceed to escape from side control. Panicking will not do you good as that will lead to spazzing, rigidness and a chaotic mind, all of which stupefies the body and prevents you from reacting properly. Same in life. Whenever you're in a tight spot, panicking will not help. Whatever the problem is, calm down, breathe so you can think straight and solve the issue. This is just one of the examples of the fighting principles being transferable to real life. I come from judo originally, and its founder, Jigoro Kano, emphasized that judo is not a mere sport or martial art, but a way to become a better human being and a contributing member of a society. I think this philosophy can be applied to any combat sport. The gradualness principle. Everything can be learned if you take the gradual approach, from simple to more complex. You can watch the video on this subject up here or down below in the description. In a nutshell, when learning new skill or technique, start out very simple and slow. Let's take jab for example. Start stationary, then just by taking one step, then by moving around, then you can do a double jab or a jab cross or a jab feint hook, and even jab with hands down. Make sure you can execute the technique properly at slow speed before you do it faster. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Anything worthwhile takes a lot of time, so do not quit. There will be times when you feel like nothing is going your way and that everybody else is improving except you. This is normal and your progress will not be straightforward. You will have to deal with setbacks, injuries, illnesses, life problems, work and family issues, but so does everybody else. You might want to quit, but don't. Keep training and after a while you will see it was the right choice. Nothing beats real confidence earned from years of combat sports training. It cannot be faked. The self-respect you'll have for yourself because of all the hard things you've gone through is priceless, and so are the abilities you'll gain. Hide your intention. Here are 2 quotes from Sun Tzu. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when we are able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must appear inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe that we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe that we are near. And also this quote: conceal your dispositions and your condition will remain secret, which leads to victory. Show your dispositions and your condition will become patent, which leads to defeat. While this is not entirely possible to do in MMA, because oftentimes the opponent knows exactly what you want to do to him, you can use this principle to your advantage. For instance, Khabib Nurmagomedov almost KO'd Conor McGregor with an overhand right, mostly because Conor McGregor didn't expect Nurmagomedov to strike with him. Nurmagomedov faked a takedown by ducking and delivered a punch. McGregor used this principle also when he baited his opponents with the false sense of distance, only to deliver a perfectly timed counter. In this sparring, you can see me missing a middle kick and conveying a message with my body language that I relaxed and will not attack any longer in this particular instance. Then fire off a side kick. I've also done this in judo on several occasions. The trick is not to be obvious about it. Here I am allowing my opponent the dominant over the back grip. I'm feigning weakness and allowing him to appear stronger. I'm also pushing him forward slightly because I know he will go for Haraigoshi. He does go for it, but the trap is set and I counter with Teguruma, which is almost an equivalent of a high crotch in wrestling. But if I was too obvious in pretending to be weak and too obvious in pushing him forward, I probably wouldn't have pulled it off. Think about the ways you can include this principle in your game. No excuses. The beauty of an individual sport like MMA is that it is far harder to blame someone else for your mistakes or lack of success than in a group sport like football or basketball. In group sports like these, you can say that your teammates didn't perform well or that the referee was biased. Well, you could use some of these excuses like the referee won in MMA too, but it is not as easy. Some people will still blame their circumstances, bad conditions for training, city they live in, star alignment and whatnot for their mistakes. While some things are definitely out of your control, if you're not brutally honest with yourself and don't take ownership of your faults, you will never develop as a fighter or in anything for that matter. This is hard and it requires honesty, introspection and mental resilience, but it is the only way to improve. In life, you can go for a long time before you get served a lesson that shocks you and forces you to change or forces you to make excuses. In combat sports, this process happens on a daily basis and your ego can be broken to pieces in every training. There will always be someone better than you who will dominate you, no matter how good you are. And if you're just starting out, it will take about 30 seconds of boxing, BJJ or any kind of sparring to put you in your place, which is great for the ego. It keeps you humble, or at least it should. If you'd like to learn from me, check out my instructionals or sign up for online coaching. These were just some of the lessons I've learned by being on the mats for 35 years. I'm sure I can remember more, but these were off the top of my head. My name is Mark Leichner, and I'll see you again soon.